There is no law that can force you to stay at home or have a fixed address. That would go against the principle of freedom of movement guaranteed by the Constitution. For this reason, living on a boat is absolutely possible and legal, but it's important to know that there are some limits and a few bureaucratic loopholes. Hi everyone, this is Valila's new television. No, that's not true. Today we're not in our tidy studio, but in an old-style brick house on land, to give some authority to the topic of residency. Today we're exploring a much-discussed topic together. Is it possible to register your residence on a boat? We'll look at the steps you need to take to get residency on a boat and what the alternatives are, sharing practical tips from our own experience and essential information. But first, let me tell you our story. When we set off in 2017 and sold our house to go live on Argentina, we hadn't really looked into the issue of residency, thinking that, all things considered, it would be straightforward to get a document or an address to receive our mail. So we went to the Navarra City Hall, where we innocently asked to become citizens without a fixed address. At our request, the municipal representative's eyes widened and, in his exact words, he said, "I'll pretend I didn't hear that." He explained to us in simple terms that if we requested residency without a fixed address as people with children, social services would get involved immediately, with consequences that would be hard to predict. In short, he convinced us to set aside the option of not having a fixed address. In the following years, however, we found out that the option of having your residence on a boat isn't without bureaucratic hurdles, but it is absolutely allowed and possible, even if sometimes it doesn't turn out to be the best choice. Is living on a boat legal? First of all, I want to emphasize that living on a boat moored in a port or marina is completely legal. As I mentioned at the beginning of this video, the Constitution guarantees freedom of movement and residence, allowing us to call the sea our home. No law can force us to settle on land if our hearts belong to the sea, even though in Italy it seems a bit more difficult compared to other countries. There are various reasons that might lead someone to decide to live on a boat. In my case, for example, living on a boat allows me to stay connected with nature and have a freedom of movement that I consider absolutely essential. For others, living on a boat means not having to worry about a house and the fixed expenses that come with it. Or, as in my case, living on a boat is necessary for work purposes. For example, a skipper who often travels for work with their own boat. There are many advantages and, in reality, very few downsides. Of course, I recommend subscribing to Nelson's channel and checking out our Living on a Boat playlist before you decide to take the plunge. But what are the options related to our official place of residence? Let's take a look at them together. Getting legal residency on a dock is much easier than you might think. In fact, unless the port or marina has specific rules or objections, all you need to establish your residence on a moored boat is a mooring contract. How do you do it? Go to the town hall with your mooring contract, which proves you have a stable residence, along with the marina's address and the specific dock and berth number. At this point, a municipal officer will come to your boat to verify that it is actually inhabited and that your floating residence is there. Pretty simple, right? The real challenge comes when you want to live while traveling, and that's where the second option comes in. And here's the second method, registering with the civil registry as a person without a fixed address, a condition that seems simple enough to obtain, but could actually cause you quite a few problems. People without a fixed address must be registered in the resident population registry of the municipality where they have established their domicile. If they do not have a domicile, they are considered residents of their municipality of birth. This law basically tells us that we'll be citizens of the world, and our virtual domicile will be set in our municipality of birth. So, we'll receive and pick up all our official communications at the town hall. Pretty cool, right? Too bad this is a condition mostly used in borderline situations, so it's not exactly looked upon favorably by the authorities. So be aware that this status can really complicate your life, and for this reason, ask your current municipality of residence for information about your specific case, preferably in writing, because as they say, spoken words fly away, but written words remain. Even if your home is on a moving boat, it's essential to provide a reliable address or point of contact. This can be essential to ensure you have access to public services, such as healthcare and other civil rights. Italian law requires that you are always reachable. If you are homeless and the municipal officer tries to find you but can't, you will keep receiving notices of unreachability, which could eventually lead to the revocation of significant benefits. Let's be clear right away, having your residence registered on a boat does not provide any way to evade taxes or be exempt from paying them. It's simply a practical necessity for many who choose to live as nomads. 3. Residence with a relative. There is a third option, which is to register your residence with friends or relatives. In this case, you'll have the certainty of someone who can check your mail and, with a power of attorney, act on your behalf for most situations that might arise while you're away. Remember to offer to pay your share of the local taxes. This option is also worth considering, but not as a permanent solution. If, on the other hand, we already know that we'll be spending most of the winter in the same place, then we can consider the idea of changing our domicile from time to time. Of course, it's bureaucratically complicated and can't be considered a permanent solution. Once you've sorted out the issue of residency, you'll still need to address the matter of domicile, that is, the address where your physical mail is delivered. If we don't have anyone we can rely on to forward our mail, it becomes quite a problem. What can we do? Fortunately, today there's the option to create a digital domicile. You need to have a certified email, PC, and by designating it as your digital domicile, you'll receive all communications from public administration with legal value directly in your inbox in the PC, which is already a big advantage. In conclusion, taking up residence on a boat to pursue your dream of living on a boat is, in every respect, a possible solution. You always need to be properly prepared and aware of the regulations, which, let me remind you, can change from town to town and from year to year. In these years of living aboard, I've heard so many stories about taking up residence on a boat. I've met people who have their residence registered at the dock, those who have obtained the status of without a fixed address, which, to be honest, are mostly foreigners and unfortunately, the majority who handle this issue with the help of friends and family. Personally, I think that nowadays there should be clearer and more specific regulations to define the rights and duties of digital nomads, or simply of those who live on the move. And what do you think about it? Have you ever met someone who managed to get the without a fixed address status or residence at the dock? Since Idelson Academy aims to be a space for sharing, I'm curious to hear your story in the comments. Remember to subscribe to the channel and leave a like, but most importantly, share this video with a friend who is thinking about living on a boat. See you in the next video, and as always, I wish you fair winds, not too little, not too much, but just right.